when I look back, it really was a lot of mental taxing, but there's been so much more payoff from it.
Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. So excited today to have Nicole Bankhead with us. She is from the Houston area in Cyprus. She's got a mental health, kind of a holistic, big view picture of how do we help you solve your problems and move forward. Nicole, welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
And tell us the name of your business again, the practice.
So, our business is Serenity Wellness and Counseling Center. We are a wellness center, but primarily also work with therapy and counseling for mental health.
And did you get into this because you were a counselor, or is this, how did you step into the business in the first place?
I did, yes. I actually started out in education and then moved into becoming a counselor. Started out with being a counselor myself and decided I wanted to see more for clients than even what I could provide. And I'm only one person. So that's when I started to build the practice.
Very nice. Well, you've done a great job, and you guys continue to grow and learn new things and solve issues that people struggle with. And and doing that has paid well, right? It's taken care of you, and you've passed that $1 million threshold yourself. What have you learned? What's a little nugget maybe you could share with us that since passing that mile marker, your growth beyond that point, what's helped you really propel and to not lose your mind and sanity in the process?
So I mean, I've grown with this and with my husband. So a couple years ago, he came a part of the practice too. So it is a family business. But I have grown it because of some really good mentors. So I was really lucky to reach out and talk to other practice owners. And those have now turned into amazing friendships where I think sometimes we're mentoring each other. But that's what helped me. I did go through a business divorce early on in owning a practice. And once I split in that partnership and just took it on myself, I knew I needed to go out and talk to other business owners to make sure I was really doing it the way that it could excel. And so I just reached out to as many as I could, just sending them emails. Will you meet with me? Will you talk to me? Will you tell me? I tried to stay outside of the area of Cyprus so that nobody felt it was a competition. And I just met with as many as I could. And I got lucky. Several of them met with me. And then I've got one that we have become the best of friends because of it. And this was years and years ago. And so now she'll call me, I'll call her. But it's really helpful. And that also helps with my self care and her self care that you have another business owner that's in this industry that when you really just need to get some things off your chest, you can reach out and talk to that individual. So I think that's really been the biggest part of what's helped me.
I love that. So, if the listeners didn't hear it, it was mentors, and
Mm.
you went about doing it by saying, "I wanted a mentor in my industry, so I'm going." You guys are geographic. That's how your client base is. Nobody flies in from Connecticut to come and see your work, and so you just went out and like, I'm just going to call people. I'm just going to visit them,
Mhm.
and I'm going to talk. And you said lucky, but no, that was just hard work, and it's putting yourself out there. It's risky feeling inside,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm back in grade school and middle school facing rejection, but
Mhm.
but
And
but I'm going to
there
do
was
it.
some. There
Yeah,
was some rejection, you know. There was some no callbacks. There was some no emails back. And that was okay with me.
yeah. You just kept
But
looking
once
till
I
you
made
found
it,
that right
yeah,
one.
yeah.
That's
Hmm.
fantastic. What a gem. The other thing I want to dive into just a little bit, and you don't have to. You can say, no, David, not for this show. Then that's fine. You had to split up a partnership in your business. Uh, do you want to share why that was important and what came of good from it? Or would you rather we move on?
I can still share bits and pieces, right?
Okay.
But it was an actual court divorce, so there's some things I just won't be able to share. It
Hmm.
just was the right move when I felt as though a lot of the work was being done as if I owned it on my own. And there wasn't enough of the agreement in terms of how that split occurs and how much hours it goes into really starting a big successful business. And so I felt as though it was time. And we made that move. And it was very difficult. It was mentally challenging as well.
Mm-hmm.
And but in the end, even in that time, I wasn't even sure it was the right thing to do until you're years down the road and you see all the signs and you see all the things that happened because of that. My husband wouldn't even be a part of this group if it wasn't for that. So it
Yeah.
really did. Now I see why, and I'm happy for the challenge in terms of that. Right, it was a lot. When I look back, it really was a lot of mental taxing, but there's been so much more payoff from it.
Yes. And I only wanted to go there because there's so many listeners right now, other seven-figure business owners who have someone on that cap table. They're an owner of the business that isn't pulling their weight. We weren't clear about expectations. They're just loving that they're sitting there thinking, I've got this value building for me someday. They may even be getting distributions for doing nothing because it's not their full time gig. They were there, but they were doing another thing. They kind of slowly pulled away. You don't have to leave your ownership in their hands. And you said mentally taxing, absolutely. Emotionally, I mean, they were a support at a time you needed them, but now you didn't. Financially, it hurts at the beginning, right? Both the
Oh
legal
yeah.
fees and the final decision. You're like, oh my goodness, I had to give this much away to get rid of them. Yes, please do it. If there's a misalignment in commitment or in values and that big vision, what we're trying to do in either one of those, it is time to move forward. And how wonderful it is looking back, right, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, I had to start all over again. I really did. I had to
Yeah.
rebuild who worked for me. I had to rebuild our mission and vision, and it was like it really was like starting all over again.
Yeah.
But it took, and with a few years, it took to get back. It really only took about a year because you do have some of like I already have the knowledge to do these
Yeah.
things, right?
And clients who
Um,
love you,
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Marketing that was already there. There were
Yeah.
things that were already in place I didn't have to redo, but I needed to regrow my staff. But now it feels very much in connection with my values, with my core values, and what I want the core
Yeah.
values of the company to be. And that is a big deal when we're working with the community and with mental health community.
Well, and it's a big deal, even if you're just a financial advisor, or if you're an accountant, or if you're a lawyer, or if you're a SaaS company. That vision alignment is so key. It keeps you from moving forward unless everyone on that leadership team, they have to be 100% aligned. No, 80%, 90% actually isn't good enough. It has to be 100%. So
Mhm.
I love that you did that. That was courageous and a real key to growth. You get stuck otherwise, or worse yet, you grow something you hate, regret, right? All along the way.
Mhm.
And what it serves isn't what you wanted it to serve. Uh, the
Mhm.
dollars aren't enough. So I love it. Thank you so much. Those were great insights. Any other nugget you want to share? You're welcome to drop another, but the two you've shared with us, huge, absolutely huge.
No, that's good right
Okay.
now.
All right. Well, then let's play on your side. You're growing. You're doing great things. How can we help you? What's your next challenge? And let's attack it for a little bit.
Yeah, so the challenge right now is, and even a lot in our industry, is marketing, right? And um, just, there are some challenges against big companies that can spend a lot of money on marketing. But then the other key is how do I get all of these employees that are with me to want to be just as much marketing themselves and the practice and that buy in from them?
Yeah. No, I think it. I mean, it's such a great question, and just to restate it, it's just I've got to play against the big boys, and I mean, let's be clear. You're talking about growing bigger than you are today, because you already have word of mouth to do what you're doing today, right? You've got it. people love your services. They come regularly. They get the help. They send their friends, but that's not enough to expand. That's enough to live, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you're wanting this growth. Um, Let me ask a couple questions. Does your team want the growth too?
Mm. That's a really good question. There's some that do, and then there's some that it might be easier to just let the company grow it for them.
Yeah, or even if the company grows, I'm just busier,
Hmm.
right? Where they don't
Yeah,
actually see how it matters to them.
I think there's a bit of that too. Part of it is that I'm not sure there's an understanding of in our the way that we're healing our clients. It is happening so much faster because we offer so many services that truly heal. That then even those employees aren't understanding. That means that we're doing such a good job. The turnaround is going to be faster. And
That's right.
that's okay, because that's what our mission is. But in that sense, if the turnaround is going to be that fast, then that means we've got to get that word of mouth to continue to grow. And we've got to get more people coming in the door more frequently because we're healing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, just congratulations on having the problem of actually solving your customers' issues. Your clientele having their issues solved means success for you and for them. But in one sense, that's customer churn, right? So we
Hmm.
start to say, okay, what do we do? Because there are many in the mental health space. And when I say many, I'm going to get this wrong. And I'm okay with that. I'll bet 70% of the mental health space um, are practitioners who are not deeply healing. They're very good at keeping their clientele. And so there's
Hmm.
this unhealthy relationship as we keep you and we're here for you and no one else gets you instead of we've healed you and you can interact with everyone else, right? And
Hmm.
so that's happening. And back in the day the research held up on that too, that very few, it was only about 30% of practitioners out there were having the impact that they wanted to have. And so, what a great thing. You're in this elite group that's making a difference and contribution. We've got to solve this issue. Your team needs to see it and understand it. And so, this is a worthy thing. Like, let's tackle it. First piece, uh, and I'm gonna say a couple of things, and then we're gonna move on to what I'm actually good at. Let me just riff on a second. You're locally, geographically um, tied very tightly. And so you do have some ways to win within a tight circle that the big boys can't as much because they're casting a big net. Even in an SEO localized winning in keyword search in a super tight geographic area around your space. So just know there are some wins that you could do in that place. And if you haven't found those um, SEO and so don't think paid per, think the SEO ones that win in the search, in the localized search, local business search win. You can get a little leg up on some big players on that. Second thing is they're all so lazy in forming relationships with other businesses. So think channel partner strategy rather than marketing. Who knows our people? Who are the best referring partners for us? And let's go. And like you reached out and found your mentor, let's reach out and find the channels that can feed us, because they'll feed a local relationship faster than they'll send to some big boy that they'll get lost at and not actually heal. Your partners are going to be key for you, and figure out, well, who are those? Are those lawyers maybe dealing with family crisis stuff and that they're playing with? Perhaps. Are those schools that are seeing a lot of stuff? Perhaps. There could be a thousand things. I don't know. Maybe it's hairdressers, that you've got a relationship, but you can win in channels when the big boys won't, because they don't feel they have to. So that's a little guerrilla warfare marketing style. Now let's move on. Let's talk about winning the team, because That was a piece that you pitched up kindly so I could actually give useful information while we talked today. And that was very charitable. So, first, the team have to believe and want to grow, not just maintain. They have to want to grow. They have to want to have more clients come in the door on the regular. We have to make that real to them. Uh, what's what's your mission as a so when you say vision, you talk about your vision, your values. Um, I like to think of purpose as part of the vision. That's the big why, the big impact way out there we're going to have, right? The change in the world and in lives. We're going to free people up to live their full lives, right? Without being tied to therapy and other things long term. They're going to be self sufficient, whatever, some kind of purpose out there. Then there's these values that say who we are. Then there's a mission. And a mission is often, now let's free up 4,000 of them by the end of 2026, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's free them. That's people who came through, who left, who were excited and running forward and didn't return back to us within a 6 month time period. Right? They're like, we win. Um, do you have something like that that your team rallies around, tracks, cheers on, and is pushing for?
I don't, but I think that's a really great idea and something like we can pull data from, our EHR system and things like that. There are things that, and even our CRM, there are things we can pull that data from.
Yeah.
And
You're
that's
going to be
really
able to,
powerful.
you'll see where they came from. Then I want you to bring your team in to say, I want to celebrate and use names. Go through stories. In your practice you can, because you're all confidential, or whatever. Say, remember, here's where she's at. Remember, here's where he's at. Remember, share 4 or 5 stories, and then pull that data up and say, and here's 167 others. Each of you have had that impact. You have done this.
Mm,
Set the stage of the great things you've done together and let them feel it deeply. And stories are what's going to connect. After you've done that feeling deeply, then I want you to invite them to dream with you.
mm,
I want you to help them envision a world that's better, a
mm.
place where parents aren't trapped in certain ways and they can't parent the way they wish they could with their kids, couples that aren't getting along the way they want to because of baggage and things they've been stuck. I want you to talk about those and talk about what it would look like if they were free, what our schools would be like, what the playgrounds would be like, what the community, what the civil discourse to talk of, would be like if we got rid of the
Mhm,
baggage and could really see and could be free to see clearly, whatever that is, whatever that visioning. You're sharing a bit of this purpose and you're saying, we've done so much good. You've done so much good. And there's so many who need more. And I can't rest knowing they need more. More need us. Now I want to know with the group, how many? How many could we touch? How many could we heal? If we pushed hard, like, sure, we've shown we could do 167, but is that enough? Aren't there
mm,
more? And let's start dreaming and let's think big. And maybe they're like, well, I want to free all of Cyprus. Great. Let's heal Cyprus. That's a big number. That may be 20 years out. Let's get back down to, so let's make tangible progress in the next 3. What could we get to? Now, this what could we get to isn't what's naturally going to happen if we just keep doing business the way we're doing it. That's no good.
mhm,
This is a cause greater than self. It's something we're sacrificing for. I'll work harder for it. So win them into that and help them dream. And I've been surprised. I've had some of my team members, I was like, well, I didn't expect a number that big. Let's do the math, because I've got to be able to get there. I have to see some kind of path. Uh, but let's stretch. Let's stretch so it's uncomfortable, but doable. If we really
mhm,
figure some things out, if we may have to rethink, we may need more offices, we may have to think of the way we serve people, whatever. Right? There may be changes, and that's okay. We'll rethink it together. But we believe we could hit it, and we believe it's a worthy enough cause, and enough of those people, that every one of them, that we're almost fighting. Well, couldn't we do one more? What if Susie was number 1001? I get it. You want to do one more? Maybe we put a safety. Let's put it. Let's make it 1,100. Okay, Susie's in there, but we've got to be able to hit it. Let's get them dreaming. That's a first step is really essential because, and you know this, in a therapy world, if there isn't a dissonance between current state and future state and a pull that they want it, they really want it, they'll never make the difficult changes needed to get there.
Mm,
Right? So we always
yeah,
go
that
back
makes a
to
lot of
what
sense.
so let's do that for our organization. Let's build that. Let's get that rubber band stretching and then let's nail it in solid by having the mission so clear, talked about every day, looked at, where everyone's like, whoa, we've got to get there and measure. If we don't, it'll just come back and everyone will be fine with the old status quo. So it has to be
Hmm.
nailed in there. Um, that's a first step. Do that together and then enshrine that goal and measure against it on the for us we report on it in my business on a weekly, so we're counting towards it. We know what we've done, right? So that matters to us, and there may be some weeks it's very little other weeks it's a lot, but that's okay, right? We're gonna count that. So that's the first piece. The second piece is, okay, that's nice, we've got a big goal, but if we don't change what we're doing today, we're never going to get there. And this next piece, I don't know what your decision would be, how you will get from A to B or A to J, if it's a big step, how we're going to get to A to J. But I know that if you can facilitate a way that your team again comes together, they help think about the mission. Now let's pull them to think about what are the strengths that we have today that we need to leverage to then serve that, or what strengths do we need to get from here to there that we don't have, that we have to build? And to get clear, there's 1,000 ways for us to get there. We need to choose one. And so let's go through a process together to think about that, to figure that out. And maybe that's a leadership team on the higher level. What's the way, the strength we need? But you can involve any member of your team once that's identified. um, you can use any of them to then say, so how are we going to build it? let's let's like project manage it out. Let's pretend we're setting this up new. How would we build it? Or if you're doing a big move into a new home, there's steps that you have to take, right? This has to go, then this, then this. Let's just project manage out. Here's how we're going to build this strength, or here's how we're going to leverage this strength. And they plan it out, and maybe they say something like, let's come up with a few ideas. Top of mind, Nicole. Let's throw some back and forth ones they might pick. Like uh, maybe it's let's find these new channel partners, or the way they might say is let's go find advocates in the community who will sell us for us. So maybe that's an option. Give me another one that comes to mind that maybe your team might do to help drive customer acquisition, client acquisition.
I think a big one you had mentioned already once earlier is like going in and talking with the schools and making that connection with other counselors, because
Okay.
counselors can only do so much, and then they
Yeah,
need
yeah.
outside resources.
Great. So, like going to schools, that may be an initiative that the team thinks maybe this would win and be the thing we need to do. Um, maybe it's maybe it's every employee engaged in finding those connections. They're all in different school districts, or they're all in different church organizations. Pastors
Mm.
often have limited ability to do this. They can see, they can care, but some professional help might be needed at times. Who are all the connections we could make? Um, and there's so many ways to do this. So let's say the team and all of the options, and there are many, many others we could have picked. We could have said we want to have an expert marketer. Let's hire a really great marketer who has done it for the big boys, and let's bring her in to come and nail it for ours and build a strength for marketing. That may be the direction you go. Right? There's myriad of ways. So we picked one, and maybe we picked the one that's this. Let's hit the school counselors. Great. How do we get in with those? Well, we could go knock their doors, or we could use the resources, leverage the strengths we have today. How many team members do you have, Nicole?
I have 12.
Great. Let's pretend that you're 12 people. Some of them are counselors, some of them are front desk people. Some of them are, I mean, they all do. You've got a biller in there, you've got people all over. Let's pretend that all 12 were knighted, knights of the Serenity, or they were made ambassadors for the business. And we set up a whole process on how do we help every one of our 12 people, enable them with the words to talk to everybody around them, or to make for each one of them 3 key connections and introductions for us. Do they believe in the cause enough? If they don't, they're not going to do it. If they don't see the stretch to get from point A to point J was really a big stretch, but a worthy one, they're not going to care how this plays out. They're just going to clock in and clock out and do their job. They'll never become an ambassador, right? They're never going to do what's uncomfortable. They're never going to sacrifice. So we've got this tension. Now we come in and we build a plan. We've picked. We're not going to hire that rock star marketer. We don't actually have that margin, and we're not certain that's the right path. Well, we're not going to get the business development person that's running around trying to create all these relationships. We're going to get each of our teams to help us meet key people in the neighborhood where there's trust already established, where we can begin a conversation. We just about guarantee a lunch would happen. We're going to set those up. And across the 12 of them, we're looking at 36 introductions to key people in the community that could be referring partners, not to enrich them, but to solve their biggest problems for the people they care so deeply about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want. We want true alignment, right? Like, we promise not to hold them forever. We heal them and send them back to you and onward, right? And so that's what we want to see. We want them to be congratulated. Thank you so much for sending me to Nicole. It has changed my world, Pastor Eddie, or thank you so much, Counselor Jones. Um, he made a difference for me. She made a difference for me. We want to align those. So now we've got these 12, and so let's say we pull together a little team. Most of your team's running the business all day. They don't have time for this, right? They're busy. But a few of them, maybe someone from front desk, maybe one of the other counselors, maybe somebody who's like an assistant in some way that you're like, there's a mix of them in there. And we say, here's what we've decided. We're building ambassadors. First of all, what do you think? You care about the mission as much as we do. What do you think? Do you think there's people in our community we could help them have a more joyous life because we're solving their people issues they're struggling with? How could we do this in a way that was comfortable to you? Let's make a plan together. And so your team comes together and they make the plan. Well, I think we're going to need to figure out who we're supposed to talk to and help each person identify those ideal people, because I had no idea until you told me some examples. Okay, so we've got to identify who. And then, I don't do this. I'm a counselor. How do I approach someone this way? Like, oh, maybe we write a script or even do some training and practices together. Let's do this. Let's try it out, right? Maybe we go through, maybe there's a whole process to build this strength of ambassadorship that every team member, and I'm calling them an ambassador instead of a salesperson, because a lot of people cringe at salesperson. So we're giving it another name. In the counseling world, they do, right? They
Mm-hmm.
don't in other
Mm-hmm.
worlds, but they do there. And so these are ambassadors. We're creating ambassadors, brand ambassadors, right? That are taking out this promise. And so they make a plan, and they'll probably say, we're probably going to need some follow up. You know what? We should also celebrate each one that comes in. Oh, I love that. Let's build a goal for how many we do. And if we hit the goal, let's do this kind of celebration. Let's talk about why it matters. Let's keep the meaning high. I don't want to be just transactional. Can we share a few of the stories of people who were helped along the way as these introductions with me? I think that would be great. Right. And they start planning it out. So the ambassadors, each one of the 12, feel meaning and purpose. They feel enabled. They have the tools. They feel supported and celebrated. They have someone they could go back to and say, I don't know who, how am I going to talk to Pastor John? He's kind of, all right, let's talk through this, right? They feel the support they need to go and succeed. And they have that desire to do it. And so the difference is, it's not Nicole solving the problem anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not Nicole is the only one who cares about the problem. First, we created care across everybody because the mission mattered. And then the team came up with the solving of the problem. And guess how much more likely they are to do it when they're the ones who created the solution.
Yeah, I love that. Hmm.
Implementation goes through the roof when it's your team. And those 3 or 4 you picked were not to do it in isolation. They were to go to that group. They were to build the plan by talking to their cohorts. These 2 that they work really tight with, these 2, they're getting their ideas. They're telling them it's open from the beginning. We're building this together. This is for us. Now let's go through. They will not let it fail because it was their idea. It was their plan. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to just use this for marketing. This can solve your hiring issues. This can solve your what new location do we go to and why, and thinking through and how we would pull off a move. This goes to, I mean, just solve so many things. This goes to how do we get our feedback clearer? Because one of your wins is I want the number up there. This many more people. Typical therapy. Here's the relationship. Here's how many heal. 20%. Our therapy, we're at 80. And this is how it shows. So you can go to the big boys who will run you through like a number and glad to keep you hooked into their therapeutic, crack that keeps you coming over and over but doesn't solve your problem. Or you can come to us where you really heal. Who do you want to trust, right? So you could have some marketing plays too. But they can help you. They can get there. They can solve some of these problems. And so anyway, hopefully that was helpful.
Very, very helpful.
What else can we do? We've got a couple minutes here left, or we can wrap up. And I would love for you to share with them, especially people in the Cypress area, or in that is it the northeast area of Houston,
Northwest.
northwest area of Houston, especially in that area. How would they get in touch with you if they wanted to like actually heal from therapy? So
Mm.
Nicole, how do they get in touch?
Yeah, so they can reach out through our phone number. That's 281-944-7922. And they're going to reach one of my client care specialists. And we have really trained those specialists to understand our clinicians well on a personal level, as well as what are they educated in, what kind of clients do they like to work with, what are their niche. And that way, when they're talking to people on the phone, they're really placing them with a good person that is going to help build that relationship, and that they're understanding what are these clients' needs. So they might pick up on keywords that would say, you know what, I think neurofeedback would also benefit you, or I think it might be helpful for you to meet to do functional medicine, or it sounds like you're talking about you need to work with a psychiatrist along with your therapist. So there's ways which our client specialists really understand how to listen to the clients when they call in. And then we also have our website. Our website is real. We get a lot of great feedback on our website, especially as a therapy practice. We try to provide a lot of key information on our website. That is www.serenitywellnessandcounseling.com. And even if you're not understanding or these extra things that we do, like neurofeedback, functional medicine, we're about to provide sound baths. Those we try to make sure we also educate the client on our website, so they already really know that, you know what, I'm very interested in this piece as well, because it's going to help me heal. And so there's a lot of psychoeducation that goes on throughout that too.
Great. Well, we're delighted again. Nicole, thank you for joining and thank you for sharing your insights on things that have helped you and that will help other business owners as they move forward. Now, that wraps up this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. If you as a listener found value, please like and share, do what's necessary to get to other seven figure business owners so they too can benefit from the things that were shared today. Until next time, keep growing, keep striving and learning, and especially keep caring.